Right, the ability to exploit lucrative South-South trade flows due to geographical advantages combined with stable trading environment is why commodity growth levels are expected to soar, and this will form the backdrop of discussions at the 3rd East Africa Trade and Commodity Conference currently underway in Nairobi, Kenya. Joining us now for more on the conference is Harry Aithnard, who is the Group Head of Research at EcoBank. Thank you very much for your time. Just give us a sense of what this conference is trying to achieve.
The conference was an opportunity to assess the market size in terms of regional trade in the region. And we have taken also that opportunity to identify the different opportunities arising in the commodity sector, whether it is in Kenya, in Uganda, in Burundi, Rwanda, or Tanzania. There's an increasing regional trade activity going on in this part of the world, and there's a need to have a conference focusing on those opportunities and highlighting also some challenges.
I mean, obviously the East African community in many ways is now being looked upon as a positive example of why greater integration is good. But at the same time, within the East African community, you have Kenya, which is a dominant economy, and Kenyan businesses, which tend to dominate the spectrum, whether it's investing on stock exchanges in member states like Uganda and Tanzania, whether creating manufacturing concerns. The benefits seem to accrue to the largest of the economies. How do some of those imbalances, how does the conference propose to address them?
The reality is a bit different, because if you look at the different countries of the EAC, they are playing different roles and they are playing different positions. Kenya is of course a dominant player, a major regional player in terms of trades, either it is import or export. Kenya is playing basically between 40 and 50% in terms of size of the import and the export in the region. But you can see that some countries also are playing some specific position. Countries such as Tanzania, countries such as Uganda. If you take Tanzania, the fact that Tanzania is a rice producer and is also attracting significant business and cement production coming from Asia is compensating the dominance of Kenya. And this is the same thing if you take Uganda, which is playing the role of a re-exporting hub. Basically, we are exporting all the commodities and all the goods toward countries such as Rwanda and Burundi.
Obviously, a big issue at the moment is that Uganda next year is expected to be an oil producer, and within it, the linkages for the rest of East Africa, where Kenya is already looking at a pipeline through from the ports of Mombasa into Kampala, for instance. So the beneficiation and the benefits accrued to the rest of the member states, how much money is there for these kinds of investments?
We do think that the benefits are going to be very positive for the community. Uganda is expected to start production in 2012, probably around 50,000 barrels per day. If you put that in comparison with some major producers such as Nigeria and Angola, of course, is way behind, but Kenya is going to be one of the frontier producers that we need to keep in mind. And of course, it is going to create booming activity in the region, especially the relationship with Kenya is going to increase in terms of either export of that oil or in terms of development of the infrastructure which are linked to that oil sector. So we think that one of the key positive impact of oil sector in the region is clearly the fact that the infrastructure will probably follow in Uganda and across the region.
I mean, across Africa, across a lot of these regional economic zones, there is the issue of trade finance, where a lot of small and medium enterprises need a little bit of support across the supply chain, not just to produce, but also to get their goods onto the market and to pay some of the very high customs fees and taxes across borders. So as we talk about trying to facilitate greater trade, what's being done on the area of trade finance and credit support?
What we have highlighted in the conference is clearly to say that there are some policy options that need to be put in the table to make sure that the regional trade increase. The regional trade is pretty significant if you take the numbers currently. Our last estimation of the numbers are somewhere around $3.5 billion in terms of regional trade in EAC. And you have some options in terms of either reducing the FX restrictions or reducing also the different borders regulations. Those are the different options which are available, and that can be used if we are looking forward to enhance the regional trade. Once again, I think that the policies that are supposed to be implemented based on the common market of the EAC are going into the right direction, and they should be helpful to increase regional trade activities in the region.
I mean, as I said earlier on, we looked at capital markets, and I was talking about Kenyan investors tending to dominate the space. We are starting to see a lot more sort of cross-listings of Kenyan companies into Rwanda, into Burundi, but there are very difficult challenges, for instance, in terms of companies being able to list, having the resources to do so, and investors being able to participate. That's one way of facilitating finance, but it's a very, very constrained way. What could be done better?
What could be done better is probably to improve the liquidity on the different markets of the region, especially if we look at Uganda. There's a possibility to increase the liquidity and make sure that part of the regional activity in terms of capital market activities is oriented towards that country. The second thing that needs to be done also, and it's on the way, is to see some countries such as Rwanda, which is attracting significant appetite from investors abroad. Those countries are looking forward to develop their capital markets. There are 2 or 3 companies currently in the stock market in Kigali, but in our opinion, there's a need to push for further development of a stock exchange such as the one of Kigali.
All right, I thank you so much for your time. Paul Harry Aithnard, who's the Group Head of Research at EcoBank, is talking to us about the 3rd East Africa Trade and Commodity Finance Conference currently underway. It's time for us to take a look at how markets performed across